Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PatFacts. Patrick here. Pat on your back, personal fitness. After a brief 2-week hiatus, we're back. We apologize for that. Again, a couple work commitments took me away longer than I expected, kept me longer than expected. So unfortunately, rather than trying to rush and be a little late and behind on things, I thought it was best just to postpone 1 week, which turned into 2, to get a few things caught up and get a few things looked after. So now we can be back on track. So thank you for your patience, everybody. Really appreciate that. And hopefully, for the most part, we should be pretty consistent from here on out. And we'll look at some other strategies like we have in the past. If there's nights where we know in advance we can't meet up, I'll play a from the vault edition like I did a few weeks ago, or maybe we'll get our special correspondents, Todd Durkin, Blake Miles, in with a little bit of Brendan Burchard, in with a little bit of a fill-in video if we can't make it. But again, I appreciate your patience. Thanks so much for that and for tuning in again this week, whether you're with us live here or checking out the recording after the fact. Looks like there's a bit of a lag audio to video, so apologies for that. We'll try to clean that up as we're going through here. Tonight, what I want to talk about, I was reading an article the other day that I thought was quite interesting from Headspace. Headspace is a meditation app, if you're not familiar with it. We've talked about them here on the past. I've used them previously a few years ago now for some experience and just a little bit more of a explanation of meditation. They do a great job of kind of explaining meditation and letting you know, kind of giving you a really good picture of how you feel beginning to meditate and the experiences you'll have, and really explaining them. So again, you don't feel maybe incompetent or get so frustrated by certain things, because again, they do a great job of explaining it as you go through. The article I was reading, I had saved quite a while ago, actually, when I was doing some blog work and some other videos for a gym I used to be at. But I read through it again. I thought it's so fitting because it's something that happens to a lot of us. And then as I was training a client the other day, the radio was on in the background, and they spoke to kind of a new condition that they've sort of discovered or created that again kind of ties into this and leads to that a kind of condition or just sort of what's the word? Just something that's been becoming more common and kind of an issue, I guess, that most people are probably dealing with quite often. Good evening, Bonnie. Welcome in. Great to see you. Again, thanks for your patience the last couple of weeks with our reschedules and our cancellations. What we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to start with a term called bedtime procrastination. Now, when you hear procrastination, we think of work procrastination, putting off tasks, something I'll get to that later. I've got lots of time. But there's actually a bedtime procrastination that they're finding happens. And what that is the difference between your intended time to go to bed and go to sleep and the time you actually go to sleep. So you may have in your agenda, your schedule, every night, bedtime is 10 p.m. I'm going to be in bed. I will have maybe read for a little bit. Things are away, in bed, lights out by 10. And what they're finding is a lot of people get into bed at 10 at that bedtime, but then they don't go to sleep. They're maybe on their phones, they're watching TV, they're doing things that kind of procrastinate that bedtime and delay it and push it back. So I thought it was a great reminder to just be aware of that and be conscious of it. And if we're doing that repeatedly and there's no kind of consequence for it, typically we'll repeat that behavior. We'll keep doing that. So what we want to do maybe is be more mindful of that bedtime that we've set. We've talked about nighttime routines here before and how important they are. And they ultimately lead to your bedtime, which should be lights out time for sleep. And that sleep, we've talked about how important that is for recovery and repairing the body and the mind and the cells, how much we need it, even to help our stress management, to get us away from those daily stressors, and again, let us just sort of regenerate our body and our mind. But if we're saying our bedtime is, say, 10 and we're not going to sleep till 11 or 12, then again, we're cutting ourselves 2 hours short of sleep, and we're not sticking to our word. We're not keeping our word with ourselves. And if we're not doing that when it comes to our bedtime and sleep time, then we're more likely to do that in other areas of our life. Maybe we're not going to stick to our 80-20 rule of trying to eat as clean and as healthy as we can 80% of the time so we can enjoy ourselves, maybe that 20% of the time. We may be more 50-50, maybe 60-40 the other way. Again, we may tell ourselves we're going to do something, but we may not stick with it because we've created this lack of trust really with ourselves with this bedtime procrastination. Saying we're going to go to bed at a certain time and putting that sleep time off. And really, we're only going to hurt ourselves more in the end, because we're going to miss out on that great recovery and sleep time that we all need every day. So take a look at things. Take a look at your nighttime routine. Take a look at your bedtime. Are you getting to sleep when you have planned and when you say you're going to go to sleep? Do you need to maybe retweak your nighttime routine so that you're ready to sleep when it's time to go to bed, rather than trying to maybe get into bed and unwind, and then that's when we reach for our devices and maybe scroll a little bit, or I'll just check one more thing, and maybe end up going down that rabbit hole that takes us 1, 2, 4, 6 hours away from our bedtime, because we get distracted and caught up, and we get kind of hooked on that little dopamine, that good feeling we get from scrolling through the social media and seeing some of the videos and the posts and things that we see. So maybe we need to look at when we cut ourselves off of our screen time before we get into bed, so that our body can relax, get away from that, get away from the blue light of the screens. Because again, that blue light triggers our system to think that it's daylight, it's morning time, or it's time to be up and around. And then again, it's harder for us to get to sleep, or we don't have as deep and as restful a sleep as we require, because again, the body's confused. It confuses your internal systems, rather than when we see it getting dark. My window's there, that's why I pointed. We see it getting dark at night. That's a cue for our body to start getting ready for that bedtime. So again, look at that nighttime routine. It might not even be anything intentional. Maybe the routine's just a little out of whack, or a little, the order maybe of things is a little off. Again, maybe you need to check, if you have to check your devices or want to, maybe do that a little earlier in the evening, at least a couple hours before bed. So you don't have, again, that blue light. You don't have maybe the stressors of a work email popping through, or something coming up on social media that maybe agitates you, or again, just that blue light throwing off your system. So take a look at your bedtime routine. If you don't have one, great time to create one. Look at, again, all those things you can do. What I'm trying to fine tune with mine, just a quick overview. We've talked about this before, but Brendan Burchard calls it NDP, next day prep. So taking some time to prep for the day ahead, having your agenda, your notes, your to-do list, whatever you do, have your tasks laid out, know what it is you're going to work on, know what it is you need to do, so that again, your mind can relax, because everything is on paper, or it's put where you need it to be, a productivity app, whatever you use. If it's there, it's out of the mind, we can relax a little bit, because we know that when we get up the next morning, it'll be on our paper, and it's there for us to see and remember. We don't have to try to process it and remember it through the evening. So maybe some next day prep, maybe fine tuning or finalizing things that happen during the day, tying some bows on those things, finishing off any loose ends that may be there, getting ready for the next day. Maybe you're doing some meal prep, getting your lunch ready, maybe getting your workout clothes ready for the next morning to hit the gym, whatever you need to do to get ready. Again, all those things done before we hit the hay, before we hit the sack. Again, less things on our brain, less things running around in there. The hamster can settle down, it can calm down. And again, it's easier for us to get to sleep because our mind is a little more at ease. Making sure you have Again, that kind of nighttime routine. Think back to when you were a kid, or if you have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews, there's a routine for kids. Maybe we have a little snack before bed, a little last snack for a bit. Maybe we shut the TV, the screen's off. We could have maybe a bath or a shower, put on pajamas, maybe do some reading, some drawing, something low key, again, to unwind, to relax, and then we get into bed and go to sleep. We prepare our body and our mind, much like we say when you see the getting dark outside. That's a cue for your body, your mind to start to slow down, start to ease up, and start to maybe not dwell and stress so much on what's going on, to prepare itself for sleep, so that when we lie down, we can effectively, hopefully, get to sleep quickly and have that really deep, impactful, reparative sleep that we all desperately need. We're also sleep deprived. Typically, most of us are really lacking in our sleep and our recovery. Because, as this article mentioned, much like we say here, your fitness is the first thing to go, which typically it is. I find sleep is probably next. And if you're not working out as much or as active, sleep is probably the first thing to go. Because again, we try to stay up and pull an all-nighter to finish things, or an extra hour to get some work done, or the kids are asleep so I can plug away for a couple hours while the house is quiet. But you need that rest and recovery too. We need to find ways to make that work. So very important to try to minimize that bedtime procrastination as much as we can, so that again, we stick to a routine. If we stick to the routine, again, we can give ourselves that shameless plug, pat on your back for a job well done, but that sets us up for success. So that, again, when we come back to our example earlier of our healthy eating, our 80-20 kind of rule that we're trying to follow, if we're setting bedtimes and we're not procrastinating on them, we're keeping that promise to ourselves. We're keeping that word to ourselves. We're building self-trust. So again, we're more likely to keep other promises or other declarations, stay with them, because we have that history of sticking to what we say and meaning what we say, which will lead us to do that more often. And if we're getting that sleep and avoiding that bedtime procrastination, then we're getting good rest. Our cells, our mind, our body is repairing, it's regenerating, it's adapting to the stresses you put on it that day. So it's a little bit stronger the next day to be able to handle those stressors a little easier, so it's not so taxing on you. Think of a workout. When you start at the gym, typically there's some stiffness, some tiredness, some fatigue in the muscles, because this is new. It's new movements. It's a new program. Maybe you're lifting heavier weights, but over time the body repairs and adjusts to that. It adapts to that. So that 20-pound weight you lifted today, in 3 days, isn't quite as taxing on the system. But again, sleep is part of that process as well. So we always talked before how we're an intertwined system. We're not just one moment here and here. There's so many systems working together. Our nutrition, our fitness, our sleep, our stress management, all these things factor in together. So the more we can kind of improve ourselves in one area, that's going to impact other areas in our life as well. So again, look at that nighttime routine. If you don't have one, try to create one, come up with one. Think back to when you were a kid. What did you go through? A lot of times I've looked up some of this before, of how to get to bed and sleep. I'm typically not much of a morning person. So I tried to find ways to get to sleep earlier a few years ago, to be able to maybe not have such a hard time getting up in the morning. And one of the things suggested was a warm shower, a warm bath, because your body temperature increases. And then as you finish that and get out, the body temperature coming back down again is kind of a mimic of a cue to the system that we're shutting down, we're unwinding, the day's ending, the temperature's cooling down, kind of like it would be outside. So it must be time to kind of slow things down and get ready for that sleep state. Hey, Nads, welcome in. So something like that, even maybe a warm snack, something like that, that's not too close to your bedtime, because if we're digesting, that's going to keep us up. But again, maybe your last snack of the evening is a little warm or a little filling. Maybe some, I find I'm trying to experiment with a little bit of protein to help me maybe feel a little fuller before bed, and to help those muscles and cells repair and regenerate. And it kind of makes me a little bit fatigued, because my body seems to maybe maybe need that a little bit or not be getting as much as it needs at that time of day. So I'm trying to experiment with a few different options there as well. But creating that routine, having yourself set up, again, hopefully will limit that bedtime procrastination. So now on the flip side of that, or not even the flip side, but actually going hand in hand with that, again, training a client the other day, the radio was on at the gym. Now, admittedly, things you hear on the radio are talking points. So this diagnosis or this term is a new term that's created, but who is it created by? And was this a scientific study that was done multiple times to prove validity? Probably not. If probably the DJ, the host, going online looking for topics to talk about to fill airtime between songs. However, I thought it was interesting, and it does tie into our bedtime procrastination. The term he had discovered and was online, he didn't discover it himself, but he found out about it, was called screen apnea. So we know about sleep apnea, not being able to get a good night's sleep, waking ourselves up, maybe having trouble with our breathing and heavy snoring that maybe wakes us up through the night and we're not getting that restful sleep we need. Screen apnea is spending too much time on our screens in the evening that, again, interrupts our sleep. It either prevents us from getting to sleep sooner. So again, it ties into that bedtime procrastination. Our sleep apnea can lead to, or screen apnea, can lead to bedtime procrastination. Too much time scrolling, that blue light, the stuff we see, the hormones that are released because of what we see and the messages we get and how it makes us feel, it kind of ramps us up. It builds us up. We just talked about the shower maybe warming you up to cool you down, to slow the body to get ready for sleep. We're doing the opposite. We're reversing that if we're on screens too often before bed, or a lot of us maybe get into bed and hop on social media one more time before bed. And then again, 3 hours later, you're still on it one more time before bed, and you've just lost 3 hours of sleep. And then when you set it down to go to sleep, you're not going to get that restful, peaceful sleep, that deep sleep that we need, get those REM cycles, rapid eye movement cycles, through us, because that's when we get into that deep sleep to, again, really repair and restore and regenerate the body. So we need to have those. So the sooner we get into those and the more of those cycles we get into, the better it is for us. Exactly, and that's a way to bust out the big terminology. Your circadian rhythm. So your circadian rhythm, again, it responds to what's going on around you. So when the sun comes up, it gets lighter, our body wakes up, gets up, starts the day. As the sun goes down, it gets darker, our body starts to get us ready for rest and recovery because it's nighttime where we should be away, we should be safe and recovering to get ready for the next day. So if we get that blue light in our face from our screens, and that includes television, phones, any kind of device like that, we want to be mindful of those lights beforehand to again give us time to unwind and have that circadian rhythm work the way it's supposed to. So again, we get into that peaceful, restorative, deep sleep that we need so much. So do you suffer from screen apnea? Are you on your phone right up until you go to bed? Do you crawl into bed and hop on the phone and I'll look at this Wordle, or I'll play a little Candy Crush before bed, or I'll go on social media? Again, all those things. So that light, that stimulus, the feelings we get from seeing messages or likes on our posts or maybe fun comments, it can all mess us up beforehand. And again, longer to get to sleep, and not the quality of sleep that we really truly need to get the most out of our recovery time. And that's what sleep should be. I see some of you posting here in the chat. Great stuff. Love that. A little condensation there, I guess. Dan says all of the above she deals with. A little before bed, little in bed. It's tricky because they're right there, right? We can have our screens, our connections to maybe friends and family and just people we want to follow right at our fingertips. And if we're trying to use it as an alarm, if we're using a meditation app on there, it's right there again. It's really hard to put it aside. Some people say put it in a different room to really get the frequency waves away from you and the blue light to make sure you're not tempted to get into it. How many times do you maybe wake up through the night and think, oh, I'll just check in. I'll check Instagram for a sec before I go to sleep, before I go back to bed. Then again, that messes you up. Your system wants to wake up more, and then it has to work harder to kind of control itself and bring it back down to get back into that sleep. So you've interrupted your night's sleep by waking up for whatever reason. And again, maybe look at some of those, but then you delay that rest again. If you pop on that phone, even for just a few minutes, it can really throw off your circadian rhythm, like Nads mentioned, and throw off your bedtime routine. So just something to be aware of. Again, I haven't seen any research about the screen apnea. Again, I heard about it on the radio. So again, a lot of that is talking points. However, hearing that and reading this article a few days before, I thought they really tied in together. And you can see kind of, even if it's more of a talking point, that distraction and the concern that could come from too much screen time just before or even getting into bed. And even first thing in the morning, again, we want to kind of gradually build ourselves up into that waking state as best we can. Again, if we have alarms and things set, sometimes we have to sort of get up when we need to get up. But ideally, we want to make it a kind of a gradual process. And getting in that screen in our face, it kind of jumpstarts that process maybe a little faster. And it could lead us to maybe more of a higher stress moment right away, because maybe we see emails or text messages or IMs from work or clients or different things going on. Maybe there's some bad news that you come across. And again, it puts you in that kind of stressful, responsive, reactive position really quickly. And again, we want to ease into that. We want to get some time for ourselves in the morning to make sure we're having our breakfast. Maybe we're doing some movement, some meditation, whatever your morning routine is. Again, it should piggyback off that nighttime routine. That should, again, gradually build you up, kind of like a warm up to your day. Nighttime routine is your cool down. If you think of it from that fitness workout perspective, morning routine is a warm up to get ready for the workout, which is your day. And then nighttime routine is that cool down to get you ready for that really restful corpse pose at the end of the day, getting into sleep, to get into that rest and recovery position so we can, again, be a little bit stronger that next day. So again, screen apnea, going with bedtime procrastination. So take a look at your nighttime routines. Take a look at your sleep schedule. Take a look at your sleep history. Maybe track it for a few days. If your bedtime is 8 p.m., are you going to bed at 8 p.m. but not getting to sleep till 10 or 11? Because maybe you're on your devices, or you're being distracted, or you're trying to get a few things done, or you're not clear with your nighttime routine to really, again, facilitate that winding down, that ending of the day, that cooling down from your day to get ready for your restful sleep. And then again, look at that screen apnea. Is that causing that bedtime procrastination? Again, maybe it's just something that you just have an order on. Maybe your nighttime routine is there, but maybe the order of how you're doing things is just a little bit off. Maybe your last check-in, like I said, for the day, or your messages, or maybe your last message to workers or colleagues, maybe that needs to be a little earlier. And maybe put it in on and out of office or something to let them know that you're not accessible, but you'll check things at a certain time in the morning. Once you get up and go through your morning routine, though, again, don't jump on there right away. But maybe that communication needs to be there with them. You know what? After this time and this time, between here and here, I'm not accessible by text and email. If there's an emergency at work that you have to get a hold of me, if your position requires that, call me. If there's an emergency, call me. I'll get the phone and we'll tackle things that way. But please make sure it's an emergency. Again, maybe there's steps you can take to put in that just, maybe some things you just don't think of them because they happen and they come up. But maybe there's things you can put in to prevent that a little bit, or steps in place to maybe minimize that distraction a little bit. So again, if you're here with us live or on the recording, I'd love to hear from you. Do you feel you suffer from bedtime procrastination and or screen apnea? And if so, what are you going to do in the next, say, 7 days until next week's PatFacts? What are you going to put in place to try to minimize that, or to look at that, or correct it a little bit? What good habits are you going to put it there to sort of replace maybe the habits that aren't serving you so well at the moment, that are leading to bedtime procrastination? Maybe it has to be more realistic bedtime. Maybe 8 p.m. isn't realistic. Maybe it has to be 9 or 9:30. But again, what can you do leading up to that to make sure that when it's 9 or 9:30, that you're right to sleep, lights out, getting that rest as soon as you can. And again, we're not talking about medical conditions that people are going through that interrupt their sleep. We're just talking about things that we can control to get a better night's sleep and to make the most of our recovery time. And hopefully, if you're dealing with some of these medical conditions that maybe keep you awake at night, hopefully doing some of these skills and limiting our screen apnea and our bedtime procrastination, if nothing else, hopefully they help you manage some of these conditions or things you're going through maybe a little better. So maybe you don't have to deal with as much of the negative effects of it. Okay, maybe we can just manage it and calm things down, and maybe you get a little bit of sleep instead of no sleep at all. Or maybe you get a lot of sleep, it's not quite as restful, but it's better than what you've been doing. We want to, again, always try to improve and manage things as best we can. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate that. Have a great evening as well. We'll see you next week. So again, love to hear from you. If you feel you're going through this, if you're trying to find ways to improve it and work through it, again, join us back next week. I'd love to hear from you then as well about how it's going. If you're, again, live or recording, feel free to share in the comments, the chat, what it is you're working towards to maybe correct or prevent some screen apnea or bedtime procrastination. And that's it for tonight, guys. Have a great evening. Kickstart that bedtime routine soon after you maybe do some personal development after this evening. Make sure, again, to dial in that bedtime routine. Maybe that's your homework for tonight. Look at the bedtime routine, try it out, see how it works. Trial and error will find the best solution that works for you. Have a great rest. Have a great sleep tonight. Wake up tomorrow refreshed, ready to attack the day. And remember, always make yourself the priority that you deserve to be by striving to be operationally fit. Stay safe, take care, and we'll see you next week.